Former President Jimmy Carter did an interview with Salon magazine, and they talked about a bunch of different issues. But I think his response to a question about the South is most interesting. He was asked why white male Southerners have turned to the GOP. And he kept it real. He said, quote, "It's race. That's been prevalent in the South. Ever since Nixon ran and ever since Johnson didn't campaign in the Deep South, the Republicans have solidified their hold there." And this is something about American history that I think a lot of people know, but there's also a lot of people that don't know about this. Lyndon Johnson, when he signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, said that the Democrats have just, quote, "lost the South for a generation." And it was a game-changing moment in American politics because the Republicans locked down what used to be the racist Democratic vote in the South. And they spent the next 50 years using what's called the Southern strategy, a.k.a. get the old white racists vote. Get them to vote for you, and they're the majority of the country, so okay, then we'll win that way. See, the political landscape before 1964, from roughly FDR, okay, so the early 1930s until about 1964, in that time frame there, it was a weird time in American political history because the parties were in the midst of a change. You know, there was a time when the Democratic Party was the conservative party in the U.S. You know, so back like Abe Lincoln freed the slaves, for example. He's a Republican president. That's when the Republicans were the liberal party. That's way back. And then as time went by, you know, obviously in 1964 was when the change was basically complete. When it was like, okay, the Democrats are now the liberal party. But it used to be the other way around. And there was a time where it was like a gray area. There was no party that was, outright in favor of minorities, you know. Black people had it rough for the longest time in the country because nobody was representing them. But then around about 1964 and onward, that was when the Democratic Party kind of embraced minority communities and they embraced a more progressive mindset. So a lot of people don't know that history, that in 1964, the Republicans said, "Oh, I know how we can win elections. These Democrats just betrayed the racists who voted for them in the South all the time, you know, the Dixiecrats as they were called. So now we'll swoop in there and we'll get all these people." And it's really interesting to me for a lot of reasons. And this all goes back to a great book from Thomas Frank called "What's the Matter with Kansas?" And it has to do a lot with why people in the South and why people in the Midwest vote against their own economic interests. So you have poor people and some middle-class people who just always vote Republican. And they actually think that, like, the Republicans stand up for working-class people. Now, why is it that they think that? And it's two main reasons. What Frank rightly points out in the book is that, well, one of the main things is religion. You have the Republicans, they always use the issue of religion to say, I embody the same values you do, so I'm going to represent you because we believe the same. We're part of the same tribe, so if you vote for me, we'll help you out. And that's why they always trumpet the social issues, and they talk about they're still always going on and on about abortion. They're still going on and on about the traditional family, right? That just means anti-gay. And they're saying, hey, man, I'm a Christian just like you, born in the same kind of area, raised in the same kind of area, so vote for me and I'll represent you like that. So they get duped into thinking, well, this guy's with me on social issues, he must be with me on economic issues too. But of course the Republicans aren't. The Republicans only help the rich. You know, it's the Democrats who are looking out for the middle class and the poor, but they say, well, no, this guy's with me on social stuff. I'm sure he's with me on economic stuff, too. And then the other issue, I think, is, as Jimmy Carter points out, race. That's another big issue that makes, you know, a lot of white middle class or white poor people in the Midwest and the South continue to vote Republican. See, they actually fear that there will be this gigantic hordes of black people and gigantic hordes of illegal immigrants that are Mexican that just sit down on their couch all day and watch TV, and it's it's us middle-class white folks that are paying for these guys to do nothing all day long, and we don't like that. We want to keep our money. We work hard for it. We don't want to subsidize these parasites, these moochers, and that's why we vote Republican, because they'll keep our taxes low and they'll keep the welfare state limited, and then we won't be funding these guys to sit on their ass all day. And of course, it's a giant lie. It's a giant racist lie. It all stems from the stereotype that, well, you good white people, of course, you're trying to do well in your lives, but these black people aren't. These Hispanic people aren't. The immigrants aren't. It's only you. You're the only ones that are good people. These guys, I mean, they're just scamming you. And, I hate to inject Karl Marx into this conversation. Karl Marx was wrong about a lot of shit, but he was right about a lot of things in his critique of capitalism when he said, the oldest trick of the economic elites is to make the middle class and the poor hate each other. Make them think that either one is the problem, when of course it's the rich who are the problem. But you make these middle-class white people think that, it's poor black people that have it best in the country, and like they're holding down the white people, and then they vote Republican. And to me, it's fascinating that it's for so long, it's worked that they've been able to dupe these people.